Hamilton City School Board of Education to order. Mr. Frazier, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Baker?
Here.
Mrs. Matthews?
Here.
Mr. Davidson?
Here.
Dr. Kopus?
Here.
And I will make a note for the minutes that Mr. Sprague will be running just a little bit late.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, I believe we have Lyndon here to tell us all the wonderful things going on there.
Yes, President Baker. Tonight we do have Linden Elementary here, and we have several members of their staff led by Brandy Hazelwood, and I'd like to introduce her and let her tell us some of the great things going on at Linden Elementary. Brandy?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Brandy Hazelwood. I have the honor of serving Linden Elementary as building principal. And I'm Michelle Connerman, the assistant principal at Linden.
My name's Debbie Shadrack. This is my 27th year as an educator in Hamilton City Schools. Most recently taking on the role of instructional math coach at Linden.
We're blessed to have all been in our roles together for the past 3 years. Before we get started, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge Katie Cook, our literacy coach, who is unable to join us today due to the loss of her father. She is a vital part of this team, and her impact at Linden knows no bounds. So she's with us today here in spirit. We are thankful for this opportunity this afternoon to share with you what we get to experience on a daily basis at Linden. When we sat down to plan out our presentation, we kept kind of coming back to the questions that we get asked all the time. We are seeing that positive movement happening at Linden, and people continually ask us, what is going on at Linden? What are you doing? What's happening? And so that brought us to the Linden Way. The Linden Way is made up of all the areas you see on the slide here. When we were brainstorming how can we share our annual update with all of you, we really wanted to bring our staff to share their voices. Unfortunately, this is their work time, so we were unable to bring them with us. However, we have created video clips today so that you can hear their voices and they can share their stories of success with you. All right, it's important to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work of our incredible staff and teachers and instructional team and what they do as students every day. Just wanted to start off as we are seeing, when we first came in 3 years ago, our main focus was growing our students and focusing on that student growth. We believe if we focused on that, we aligned our arrows and fostered that teacher efficacy, we would be able to push Linden forward. We're happy to share, as you already know, that Linden did grow to 4 stars on our report card this year, with one notable area of making strides, which was our chronic absenteeism. We know there's room for growth always within our report card, but we're very encouraged by the data that we are seeing at Linden. So let's talk about ELA first. Our teachers are seeing the benefits of the consistent daily rigorous Tier 1 instruction when it comes to the recent curriculum shifts. At Linden, we've been intentional on having explicit vertical instructional conversations. Here are 2 of our teachers sharing their experiences with implementation of our new reading curriculum.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Smith, and I'm a first grade teacher at Linden.
And I'm Alexis Gallagher, a 4th grade teacher at Linden.
I have really enjoyed EL because not only does it help my students with comprehension and vocabulary and has helped me with integrating both social studies and science and daily lessons, but also I have loved that my students are learning how to communicate with one another and be respectful and respond to one another. They're using words like responsibility and collaboration, perseverance, integrity in all of their daily conversations, and I'm just really excited to watch them continue to grow with EL.
And I have embraced the challenge of implementing the EL curriculum, and let me tell you, I've been amazed at the transformation it's brought to my classroom. My students haven't just learned, they've thrived. Their engagement soared as they tackled meaningful real-world topics and embraced community partnerships. Some of their favorites, like being able to write a letter to the author of Love That Dog and receiving their very own poem in response, to also seeing our informational texts come to life through Butler Tech veterinarian students, bringing their animals in to demonstrate their defenses. My students' excitement in combination with their excellent test scores are a testament to their hard work and this curriculum's effectiveness. It's been an honor to host colleagues in my classroom, both from our own district and from surrounding districts, in order to share how EL's approach fosters deep learning and connection. EL is more than a curriculum, it's a pathway to empowering our students and strengthening our community. Together, we're preparing them for not just academic success, but for a lifetime of curiosity and contribution.
On to math. I feel teachers at math at Linden have fully embraced the Engage New York math curriculum. Although there was some initial hesitation with adopting a more rigorous and challenging program, we're now seeing impressive results and are excited to celebrate the significant growth reflected in our student data. Hear from two of our math teachers as they share their insights and experiences with the curriculum.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright, and I teach 5th grade math and science at Linden Elementary.
Hi, I'm Olivia Dekuvitz, and I teach 2nd grade at Linden Elementary.
So, Engage New York offers a comprehensive range of resources that make a really well-rounded math curriculum. With its blend of application problems, fluency activities, and problem sets, I'm able to tailor the format to suit my teaching style and the needs of my students. So the curriculum's depth allows me to challenge even my most gifted and accelerated learners, ensuring that they stay engaged and grow. While the rigor of the problems sometimes makes the learning process feel challenging, the results have demonstrated its effectiveness. So over the past few years, since we've been using this curriculum, I've seen my students consistently advance to higher levels of achievement.
Absolutely. From a primary perspective, I completely agree with Kelly. It's especially been interesting because for the past few years, I've only been teaching ELA, and this year I've come back to teaching math. And it's interesting to see how much students have changed in their math thinking since I last taught math here at Hamilton. And it's really cool to see, we started at Engage New York the last year that I was teaching math. So to see the changes in students and to see the change in their thinking and their ability level has been really cool to jumping back into that.
Yeah.
Next, we are pleased to highlight 2 exceptional after-school clubs, both led by dedicated teachers that have made a significant impact on our students. Each club fosters both personal growth and collaboration while encouraging creativity and overall are a positive influence on our students.
Hi, my name is Teresa Young. I'm the music teacher here at Linden Elementary, and I also do the After-School Cranium Crushers Club. Our Cranium Crushers Club is for our gifted and talented students, and it gives them a chance to explore STEAM principles, but in hands-on ways. We do, right now, board game building, as well as we're going to be doing some video game building. It gives them a chance to unleash their creativity and really just enjoy each other's time and share ideas with each other.
My name is Caitlin Saylor. I'm the ESL teacher at Linden, and I also do ELL Club. ELL Club is for current and former ESL students. So it's an opportunity for them to practice all 4 domains of English. And we do themed activities every month. So we've done leaf art, we have done escape rooms, and going into December, we're going to learn about holidays around the world.
Every day, Linden students participate in what we call the Roar Block. Every grade level, kindergarten to 6th grade, has a daily scheduled block of time designed to provide targeted academic support to small groups of students. The Roar Block wouldn't be possible without our entire team: ELL teachers, intervention specialists, Title I teachers, and homeroom teachers. The groups and instructional decisions are data-driven, and the results speak for themselves, as the 2 teachers in the next clip will share.
I'm Nikki Davidson, and I teach kindergarten at Linden.
I'm Lauren Mersch, and I teach 3rd grade.
We want to talk to you about Roar Block, and Roar Block is just Linden's version of AIM Block. We've been doing that for a few years now at Linden. Our kindergarten team has been able to meet the students where they are and give them intervention that is research-based and where the students need to be academically. And we've seen tremendous growth throughout the years that we've been doing it, so we're excited to keep it going with Roar Block.
I love Roar Block because it doesn't take anything away from our Tier 1 instruction. There's no interruptions from Tier 1, and we're really able to dive deep and not have to constantly be reintegrating students back into our classroom. I also love that we get to meet as a team around the table every 6 weeks or so cycle and really just talk about the child as a whole and dig into that data and really make sure that they're moving and getting what they need. I just bumped into one of our title teachers in the hallway the other day, and she was like bittersweet crying because they were just able to move a tier 2 kindergarten kiddo out of her group and back into tier 1 instruction. And she was sad that she couldn't work with them anymore, but she was just so proud. And that's what she wants for our students, and that's what everybody here at Linden wants for our students. We want to keep moving them and growing them.
We are thrilled about the progress being made by our instructional team at Linden. This year marks an exciting milestone as we combined our math and literacy committees into a unified team with a shared vision to guide and support all staff. This collaborative committee is focused on key district initiatives, including implementing explicit instruction, fostering instructional leadership, and enhancing data literacy. Currently, we are diving into the 16 components of explicit instruction with a particular focus on strategies that elicit student responses. We all know how important it is to encourage all students to respond and be engaged in their learning. Here's one of our teachers practicing choral responses with her class.
Thinking. 20 centimeters or 9 centimeters, which is shorter? 9.
As an instructional team, we strive to cultivate instructional leaders among our teachers by encouraging them to implement these approaches in their classrooms and share their experiences while leading morning professional development sessions. Another key priority is increasing staff data literacy by analyzing the district report card, exploring its insights, and examining MAP and OST data. With representatives from every grade level on this team, we aim to ensure this important information is shared effectively, creating a deeper understanding among all staff members. As far as coaching, this year marks our second year of the coaching cohort. This is a voluntary program where teachers commit to meeting weekly or bi-weekly with Katie or me. We're proud to share that 74% of our classroom teachers are actively participating in the cohort. Many of these teachers are engaged in reflective coaching cycles where we work together to set student-centered goals and highlight effective instructional practices that foster growth for both students and teachers. Within the cohort, our work includes, but is not limited to, lesson planning, co-teaching, modeling lessons, conducting observations with feedback, organizing peer observations, analyzing data, and reflecting on best practices, among other things. Beyond the cohort, we've introduced backward planning sessions with each grade level team to ensure that we are reaching all of our teachers. Additionally, we support teachers with Roar Block planning and through the MTSS process, helping make informed, data-driven decisions for students. Katie and I take immense pride in the coaching work at Linden, where we feel fortunate to collaborate with such dedicated staff and administrators. To us, coaching isn't just a job, it's a privilege. Supporting this talented team is both an honor and a source of gratitude every day.
Add a little. There we go, a little delay. At Linden, this year we have the honor and excitement to pilot the Adopt a Class program for the elementaries. Through this mentoring program, our 3rd through 6th grade students are getting to explore potential career pathways that are right here in the city of Hamilton. We currently have classrooms partnered with First Financial Bank, Butler Soil and Water, Miami University, Fitton YMCA, Inspiration Studios, Connect IT, and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Not only are our students beaming with excitement on Adopt a Class Day, the adults, as they come in the building, they are just as excited to see the students, mentor the students, and share more about what they do every day in their respective businesses and organizations. As you can see here, there's some pictured examples of our groups. Right in the middle is Inspiration Studios. Their very first day that they came out to get to know the students in Mrs. Hines' class, it's a 3rd grade class. They worked together and collaboratively built the Linden logo through a mural mosaic tile process with paper to get to know them and share that art with them. So it's been a very exciting process. We're very thankful to be able to pilot it, and we're looking forward to the businesses and organizations that are still going through the training process to continue to impact all of the 3rd through 6th graders at Linden. When we initially created our 5-year plan at Linden, when we first came over, one of the big areas of focus for us and me personally was community. Bridging the community of the school of Linden with the greater Lindenwold community. And what an amazing community it is. What started with participating in a few community neighborhood meetings here or there has grown into wonderful partnerships that benefit our students and the greater community together. Lindenwold Kiwanis is our Adopt-a-School school program, and while we've grown that relationship the past 3 years, this year I've been able to join the organization and continue to grow that with a group of wonderful individuals who are truly all in for children, and Linden is a wonderful benefit of that. Our 6th grade students, as 5th graders last year, Linden was selected as the 17 Strong Nano Grant program. And so we had students who got to listen to the 17 Strong team come in and tell them about all 17 neighborhoods. Did you know there were 17 neighborhoods in Hamilton? And shared with them the Nano Grant process. And then from there, they let the kids go, and the ideas just started to flow. And so we've ended up with 4 finalists of groups of students, and they all presented to the board, and they were overjoyed with excitement when they found that all 4 projects are going to be funded. From simple a neighborhood cleanup that we actually did earlier this week at Linden before it got too cold and the cube had to get some winterizing done, we had 2 students come up with the idea of having a wishing well at Linden. That where we could showcase different organizations in the community every couple of months, and the funds that we would receive in the wishing well would go towards that organization. To learn, that was how they could give back in a simple and exciting way for them. They're pictured there with it's one of those cool swirly coin ones that the kids really love. We had 3 gentlemen who initially wanted to create toiletry bags for people who were experiencing homelessness, and that project grew. I've never seen 227 bags get filled in 23 minutes by 3 6th grade boys. There were objects going everywhere. They were having a blast. We were able to reach out to Caring Closet and make that a donation directly to them, so then it went back right into Hamilton students. The boys were very excited to know that, hey, this is going back to kids that are like us, right? And so that was a wonderful experience for them. And then over the summer, I don't know if you've driven down St. Clair lately, but there is a new colorful crosswalk that a group of students, that intersection, we have a lot of walkers and a lot of community members that walk the streets of Lindenwold. Students, as soon as the bell rings, they walk home, put their backpack down, grab their basketball, and they walk right back to school to play every day. And this intersection is a very busy one. And so these students said, hey, what else can we do to make it safe for us, but also for all of Lindenwold? And so they came up with this idea of a colorful crosswalk. So if you haven't driven down St. Clair lately and seen it, head on down and you'll see this wonderful red, white, and blue colored. All summer, they had to close the road down, and the kids themselves dipped the paint, and they painted the road and the crosswalk. It was a wonderful experience for them. I think the coolest thing for the students were, it wasn't just a project they talked about, they came up with, they got to actually see that project in action, which was a wonderful experience for them. Also in the community this year, we were fortunate to join the Hamble Turkey Initiative, and so 200 Linden families that needed it got a box of Thanksgiving food to cook and a 20-pound frozen turkey. So they had what they would need for a wonderful at-home Thanksgiving dinner. We were able to, during Thanksgiving break, we had a community buffet at the school where Kiwanis members came out to serve food, staff members came out, and it was just a wonderful time of fellowship with our families from Linden and the greater Lindenwold area. We are fortunate to continue our partnership with Butler County ESC and their Compassion Project through our Break Box program. I don't remember last time we talked last year. We were piloting that program. We're like, hey, what can we do? And they're like, let's try it. Okay, Linden, we'll be the guinea pigs. And so from that just last year to now, it has grown to 14 other schools in the county. And we're very excited for that partnership as well.
And to wrap it up, we just want to emphasize that none of this is possible without this amazing staff. Built on a culture of trust, their commitment to fostering a positive learning environment, supporting each student's growth, and striving for excellence each and every day. We are just so deeply grateful for their tireless efforts, which enable Linden to thrive and reach new heights.
Our collective strength lies in working together with a shared vision. When we align our arrows, our goals, our strategies, and efforts, we create a powerful energy that drives student success and strengthens our teaching practices. We feel we are moving mountains at Linden.
We want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to you, the school board, Mr. Holbrook, Mrs. Blevins, Mr. Wright, for the continued support that you have and the trust that you have in us with our respective roles and our school community. It truly is an honor to serve the students, staff, and families at Linden, and we are very thankful for that opportunity this evening to share with you about what's happening at Linden. So we ask you just to continue in believing in Linden and the Linden way. Thank you.
Well, Brandy, Michelle, and Debbie, thank you very much. I always say this every time, how much I love hearing about what's going on in each individual community and how each elementary school is kind of involved and has their own interaction with the community at large. Congratulations on a 4-star. I mean, great job. And to see where you've come from over the last several years, it's just congratulations. You've done a fantastic job. And it looks like you have a lot of fun while you're doing it.
We like to have a little fun.
Yeah.
Same, I agree. Again, it's always great to hear from you guys at Linden and all the great things that you're doing. And thank you for all the pictures and the visuals and also the videos, because I think that just is great to hear from the teachers themselves and their excitement about it and the things that they're doing in their different units and their different grades. And also, you know, I believe seeing is believing. So being able to see all those pictures and the smiles and the interactiveness with all the teachers, with the students, is always a great, you know, display. And again, like Max said, shout out to 4 stars. That's always amazing to see you guys achieve that. I know it was a goal, so congrats on that. And again, just appreciate you and your awesome team and staff for just making learning fun, making the environment pleasant, and you know, the kids, giving them a space and a place where they, you know, seems as if they want to be, and definitely is inviting. So again, I just say thank you definitely for all that you do, and also prayers to Ms. Cook as well. So remember her family.
First off, I want to thank you for hosting Dr. Kopus and I a few weeks ago on a tour of your building, and totally enjoyed it. My wife used to teach down at Linden, so I'm familiar with the building. It was great to get back there. I love what you're doing. You're challenging your students, you're growing your students, and I love this roar block concept that you have and how that's working. I love how you're also pushing your teachers to be better and helping your teachers get better. And you have a great staff down there, but you're helping your teachers and giving them what they need. And I thank you for that. Keep up the good work.
Principal Hazelwood and staff, just a few comments. First of all, thank you. And I want to echo, I think, what President Baker said. Congratulations on the 4-star report card. And while that's impressive, to me, personally, what's more impressive is the amount of progress you made. You know, whether you wind up with a 3 or 4 or 5-star, you know, that's one thing, one way to look at it. But to me, it's the amount of progress that you've made. That's what you should really be proud of. And I appreciate the fact that you give credit to your fellow administrators and to your staff also. I mean, the teachers are the soldiers, so to speak. They're the ones fighting the battles in the classroom, and congratulations to them. And I particularly, during your presentation, I particularly liked your after-school clubs. I think that's great for students. And like Mr. Davidson mentioned a moment ago, talk with me again for a moment about the Roar Club, or the Roar Block, I'm sorry. That occurs during the school day?
Yes.
Well, go over that again for me, just quickly.
So a district-wide initiative is that AIM block, that designated time of students to receive the intervention they need or the enrichment they need.
Gotcha.
And so at Linden, our PBIS program, we use the ROAR acronym, and so it made sense to us to call it ROAR block.
Yeah.
And during that, dedicated, 40-minute block of time, students who are working with an intervention specialist, working with a Title teacher working with an ELL teacher, that is their designated time for their intervention and their services.
Right.
And so what we, within that block, will be have the opportunity to do is those students who don't get pulled out for those services, we're able to look at our data, choose a focus for whichever grade level it happens to be, and then we leverage those 4 classroom teachers that are still in the grade level and those students left, so that, you know, this pocket of 20 students that are up in the higher achieving gifted group, okay, let's put them in this classroom, and they're gonna have an enrichment project that they're gonna do with this teacher. And the students that are left, we divide them up based on, you know, their, whichever data we're looking at. When we started, we used MAP in the fall because it's very fresh. And we looked at their percentiles and we grouped them and used that data to really target those students. So with the 4 classroom teachers, this group might have a group of 13, this one might have a group of 15, and this one might have a group of, you know, 12, depending on the grade level and those receiving services. And it is truly a sacred 40 block minute at a time. And by doing that, that's the only time that those students are getting pulled out of the classroom. And so the rest of the day is all Tier 1 instruction, and those students are getting to experience that Tier 1 instructions. The teachers, as Mrs. Merch mentioned, they're not constantly having to reintegrate students back into the room during that Tier 1, and they're able to truly dive deeper with their Tier 1 to make it rigorous for the kids.
Okay, well, thank you, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brandy, I think one of your first slides that you showed us talked about the Linden Way. I also think there's a square missing, and it's culture, enthusiasm. And you and Michelle, for the last 3 years, have brought such an energy and such an enthusiasm to an already great group of teachers, and it's contagious. When you go into that building, you feel it. You feel it with your parents. This summer, I did have the opportunity to attend the painting of the crosswalk, and the excitement that the kids had in doing that. Well, you know, I don't know if I can properly describe it, but that's all a part of the educational piece that I think is really important. And you and your staff should be really, really happy and need to be complimented on all of those things. And I appreciate your leadership over these last 3 years, Michelle. I appreciate your leadership, Deb, and I know Katie isn't with us from the instructional lens, and you know, we're always here to support and look to get better, but we also need to sometimes take a step back and look at the accomplishments that we've had and kind of acknowledge those too, because we're always so focused on pushing forward and continuing to get better, and we're all like that. But there's so much to be thankful for, and there's so many things that you've done and your staff have done so well that I just want to publicly say thank you for all of that, and thank the entire staff.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Oh, Mr. Sprague. Next on the agenda is some things that we've talked about. I believe the cell phone policy, and your group, Mrs. Blevins, that has gotten together to make recommendations to the board. Okay.
And let me give some background on this. Earlier this year, it was mandated that every district in the state of Ohio at least review their current cell phone policy if they had one, which we did, or in some cases, districts did not have a cell phone policy and they were to create one. And so Mrs. Blevins eagerly said, let's form a committee. And, you know, she's the mastermind behind forming the committee. But I think that's really important to get the input from everybody involved, from parents to teachers to students to community, in what can and cannot be successful and what do we need. And I'm going to turn this over to Andrea. She facilitated these meetings with her committee, and I think you're going to hear from some committee members tonight on what the recommendations of that committee are.
So thank you, Mr. Holbrook and the board, for allowing myself and my committee, AKA the people who were nominated from the committee to speak tonight. As Mr. Holbrook mentioned, Governor DeWine asked, can you hear me okay if I'm over here? Okay. Governor DeWine asked or mandated each school. I can't. He said no. How about now? Okay. Mandated each school to adopt a policy. As Mr. Holbrook mentioned, we already had one, but it was time for us to really look at that and make sure that our practices were aligned to our policy and that what we were doing was working in buildings. There are a lot of different feelings on this particular piece. And so the best way that we thought to do this was to form a committee. And we were very blessed to have a robust committee. We had representatives from every single building, both on administrative side as well as the teaching staff. The teachers that were nominated to be a part of this committee were chosen by our union leadership. That was really important for them to be a part of this team. So I just listed up here who was on our committee. From our administrative side, we had Mr. Britton, Miss Brandy Hazelwood, Mr. Marjoram from Garfield, Mr. Zeri, and then Mrs. Fuller. And then on the teacher side, we had Mrs. Green from Bridgeport, Ensconcia Mitchell from Crawford Woods, Karen Boltman from Fairwood, Kayla Hawk from Highland, Jennifer Hafley from Ridgeway, aka Union, Lisa Burton from Wilson, Melissa Peterson from the freshman campus, and Amy Kelly from the high school. We've met a number of times. If you remember when I proposed us forming a committee, I talked about a timeline. And so our committee has done a lot of work in a little bit of time. And I think it's really important, we talked a lot about this in our committee, that this is just the first phase of presenting recommendations to you. One driving notion that came up in every conversation we had was it's about getting buy-in. It's about enforcement and communication. It's making sure our parents, our students, and our staff are all on the same page with what expectations are moving forward. So while tonight is a recommendation, you will not have anything tonight to vote on. This is just to give you our committee's findings. Then from there in January, I will bring a proposed policy. But if you look at our timeline, January through May is really focused on that next phase, the communication and the implementation of that particular piece. Our target goal would be to implement in August, full implementation. Okay? So instead of hearing from me, you guys hear from me all the time, I thought I'd bring up the rock stars, the soldiers in our classrooms, to talk about what our committee did. And so that's what we're doing this evening. Let me put this back up here so you don't have to hold it like Vanna White. All right.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Hoifley. I'm a 30-plus year educator, over 20 of those being here in Hamilton. It's weird for me thinking back, like, I didn't even have a cell phone when I started teaching, so this is really weird. But you have seen and are aware of the current policy, and if you looked at it, it was very wordy, very vague, which led to a variety of practices in our different buildings. As you can see, basically K through 9, the policy, certain current practices are that the cell phones are out of sight during the school day. And then in our high school building, it's at the teacher discretion, allowed in the hallways and in lunch, which sometimes leads to a little bit, I don't know how the best word to say it, chaos or whatever. But so it's just not the best way of that it's happening. Okay, so then we had our committee, and it was a variety of people, but we knew that there was a lot more opinions out there. So we did come up with a survey, as Mr. Holbrook alluded to, that we asked staff, students in grades 5 through 12, and parents and guardians to answer questions about cell phone use in the schools. Asked a bunch of different questions. And then we went back as our committee and look through those, and you can see on this slide the amount of responses that we got. So our parents, we had 443 responses, which I thought that was pretty good. You can see most of them are 7 through 12, which makes the most sense because most elementary school students don't have a cell phone or don't bring them to school, at least anyways. We do have some, but not as many as in the older grades. And then of our staff, about 70% of the staff responded, which for me as an HCTA person is fabulous because we usually get like 60 people. So to have 70%, over 70% was like, wow, this is great. And then from the students, like I said, we did the elementary only grades 5 and 6, and then the middle school, high school, and the freshman campus as well. And then we will talk about some of the responses that we got on those surveys. Yes. Yeah,
I know it's small to see, but yeah, 2,144 students.
and I know like a lot of the teachers gave, at least in our building, I know gave the students, they said, open up your Chromebooks, we're going to take this survey. So at least I know that's how we did it in our building. So.
It's really important for us to make sure we had the voices. You know, that was, all of us as a committee had our feelings, right? Each individual person had their own views on cell phones. But at the same time, we knew we were just representative of the larger community. So our first piece of business was to get those survey results from everyone before we really got into conversations about what does that look like moving forward for our district.
Okay. Okay, I will. Hi, everyone. I am Amy Kelly, and I am currently at Hamilton High School. I have been in the district since 2003, however. So I have watched the progression of the cell phone epidemic, and I'm going to call it an epidemic. And it is time to be addressed. And it's not about banning the technology per se, but it's providing an environment and an opportunity to have a phone-free environment so that the students can have that opportunity to have more, interaction and face-to-face communication. And the drama, she hit it on the head because that's where it starts with the social media. The staff takeaway, overwhelmingly, the staff voted, or not voted, but the survey indicated that the staff is on board with a phone-free environment. It's already implemented in the lower grade levels, and the high school, the obstacle for us was the large age band. You have 15-year-olds and you have 18-year-olds. And so the staff waffles with an 18-year-old that has a job or that has children, or, they're in a different circumstance than the 15-year-old. So we've kind of stuck with the teacher discretion model at the high school, but it needs to be reformatted, and our structure needs to be different because the mental health component is at the top of our list. Yes, it's a distraction, but the distraction is a part of the decline in the mental health of our older students here in the district. 87% of our staff, they don't use the cell phone because we have the one-to-one Chromebook, and it's not necessary to use the cell phones. And I know that has been a concern, but we use the phone in art class, or we use the phone to take pictures in digital media or for yearbook. And that's absolutely fine to be able to speak to those different courses, to use the cell phones. But this is for the overall, just use for QR codes or for surveys. You can use your Chromebook for that. We talked about the distraction. These statistics are, how do I want to say it? Secondary to the feeling that the staff has that we have lost the connection with our students. We have lost a connection to other human beings in our classrooms. And we understand that, it is all about, we hear the distraction, and from the parent side, it's like, well, we want to be able to communicate with our children. Okay, we understand that, and we will absolutely provide you with opportunities to be able to, stay connected to your child. But during the 50 minutes that we have them, we really want to be engaged with them. It's like our top priority. I've had the unique opportunity. Commercial break. Okay. I've had the unique opportunity to not only can present the survey results to you, but obviously the high school is our priority right now to modify the free, phone-free policy. And I've had numerous teachers that have come to me personally, sent me messages. We've had conversations in department meetings, and overwhelmingly, the teachers want to have that, human interaction with the students again. And we want to see the students interact with each other. It's very disconcerting when you have a room full of young people that can have dynamic conversation and be able to participate in each other's learning and lift each other up, but their faces are down in their phones or they're distracted by who's saying what on social media. Overwhelmingly, I hope I didn't use that word too much, but overwhelmingly, the staff wants a uniform policy. And so, our discussions are how can, we combine language, how can we clarify language without it being too generalized. And I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. Do you have any questions for the staff?
Kind of surprised that it's only 41% of staff feel that phones disrupt classroom dynamics. I would have thought that much and that they distract from lessons. I know going back a few years that I was seeing that much more in classrooms, happening more frequently as I was walking around. So I'm kind of surprised. Is there a reason behind only 41%?
I think that it's
The question
yes.
is like if you see, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, it's fine.
The next statistic, 40.9% feels phones disrupt. It was like, what do you feel phones are doing in the classroom? And so a portion of them said that they distract from lessons. And within that same questions, 40% more said that they disrupt classroom
Okay,
dynamics.
so it's
kind of
all
different
part of the
answers
same
within-
response.
Well, you also have to remember some of the responses came from elementary teachers who don't have cell phones in their
It's
classroom.
all staff.
Or middle school.
This-
We went over the current practice, and in many of the buildings, cell phones are already not.
Okay.
So we asked all of those students, and all of those teachers, and this is what they're doing. And so, you've got to think of that K-12 continuum.
I was thinking more of the secondary.
Yeah, and that's why I'm speaking.
And as a singular answer, not a double. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So to speak to the secondary teachers, it's all in the terminology. Is the phone the disruption, or is it the emotional turmoil that it causes as a result of the phone? Does that make sense? Okay.
So basically, you're saying that 80% of the staff feels that it's not good.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
We did ask the staff to put, where did they feel it was okay? Because when we get to parents, you're going to see, they want to be able to reach their children. And so we wanted to know where that was. And so we just listed some of the places that they did say before and after school, obviously for any medical or safety reason, and then the bus. The bus was one that they discussed.
How did between classes? I don't see that.
Between classes was not an area that staff would like to see.
Okay.
More towards what you probably expected, there was a question that really asked about in the classroom, should they have them with staff? And it was 89%. So that's probably more what the percentage you were looking for on that. That question just had so many options. I think that if they weren't bothered by it because they already have them put away in their class, they probably didn't say yes on that. But in the question where it said, should they have them in class, 89% said that.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Mrs. Blevins, I have a few comments. First of all, I want to say that I support your plan and the steps of the plan. I think that's extremely well thought out. And I also agree very much with the blended composition of your board, and I'm impressed that you've sought any type of parental input. I think that's important. And you made a comment earlier about where every person, myself included, we have our own feelings about what the policy should be. But I personally want to say that more important to me than what I feel would be what the teachers feel, because they are the ones that are going through it day to day. And what impresses me up there about those statistics is 70% of our staff thinks, and by the way, I think wearable technology should be included with phones.
Talked a lot about that. That's in our policy. It's in the policy.
But I mean, they want them strictly prohibited. And, you know, that's, to me, that's a strong statement from our staff. And but anyway, I think what you are doing is great, and we look forward to further information and ultimately voting on this.
Hello, my name is Lisa Burton, and this is my 26th year teaching art over at Wilson Middle School. So I have taken on the parent statistics here. And I also wrote down what that doesn't show, because I think that also informs what the survey shows. Is first, we have 78% know that they have a phone at school. 12% said no, they don't, and 11% said no, they don't even have one. So they're aware, they take them to school. 61% a child uses at school. 40% say never. No, not my. So, you know, take that one where you. But 61% say definitely they know, yeah, they use them. 56% of parents say there should be a uniform policy. And that, I think that number looks low, but the remaining 40% said maybe. And I think maybe there was just more of a hesitation of, okay, well, what does that policy look like? What are the parameters? So not necessarily not on board, but yeah, let's look what that looks like. So I think that it's more of a positive, that more are on board, but some are a little hesitant and want to see more of what the details. And then 43% of parents believe that there is not a positive impact. And 40s had no opinion at all. So that was kind of, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that they just didn't have an opinion, didn't think. But being a parent of teenagers, I know when I say my child's name and how many times I have to say it and their face is looking down. It's definitely, yeah, they agree with us. 50% believe that there is a distraction. And 43 again, there's not a concern, and the minutia of the remaining percentages was how are they using it? Is it cheating? Is it misuse in the classroom? But it seems like most are on board. And the ones that are saying, yes, I know my child is using it, and I think this is the biggest part, is they want their child to be able to be reached. They want them to have them before and after school for safety purposes, on the bus for safety purposes. And I think that plays into some of the numbers that we're seeing. And I think we can agree with, we want our children to be safe, number one, of course. And then I'm not going to take up too much. You'll see in our recommendations that we also talked about that we'd like to empower and inform our parents and how they can be better guardians of this cell phone epidemic and time, and give them some tools and resources. Only about 64% said they had resources to be able to help them navigate cell phone use and parental controls. I know oftentimes in conferences where parents are like, I'm really busy, I don't have time to look at progress book. And I'm like, you have where you can just set parameters on there and you will get a notification if your child gets below a C in math or misses an assignment, and just giving them, and they're like, oh, that just makes me so much happier because I don't have to constantly be the bulldog and look. This is going to inform me. And I tell my own kids, no news is good news. If I get a notification, something's not going right. So I think that's going to be a big help also, just to have parents know that there are some resources and things out there to make it a little bit easier. Any questions for me?
get to do the student. First off, I'm Karen Boltman. I teach at Fairwood Elementary. This is my 26th year in the district. Been in the 1.5 mile straight line the whole time, Buchanan, Grant, and Fairwood. Love the community. But I bring a kindergarten background, but I also bring a mom of young adults and a mom of teenagers and can you believe it, an almost 13-year-old that does not have a cell phone yet. He reminds me of that all the time, but our rule in our household is 9th grade. It's a big responsibility. And also, I don't want to add another thing onto my bill. But just real quick about our students. Our students told on themselves. That's exactly what we said as soon as we opened it up. They did tell on themselves, so that's awesome to see that they were very honest in what they wanted to share with us. And in the classroom, they felt that it was inappropriate to have their phone in the classroom. I think some of us kind of took that kind of by surprise, but I kind of look at it as a viewpoint like they're either trying to say, well, yeah, of course it's inappropriate. We're talking to the school. We don't want to tell them that we think it's appropriate. But I also think that they do want to learn everything that they can here. Excuse me. Sorry. Kindergarten in December is a lot of fun. There is only 37% of the students that believes that cell phones enhance their school day. And then 51% say that they do not use their phone at school. We'll see. We're hoping that they're honest. And then the majority feel outside the school hours are okay. One of the biggest things that the survey said is they wanted to be able to wear their devices. So we all kind of took it as their headphones. They want to listen to music. I get it. We all last night I was wrapping gifts. I wanted Christmas music on. We do better when our music is on. But I know that after listening to other schools in the district, we all have wired headphones on our Chromebooks, and they have that opportunity, if their teacher allows them, to put on music, which I think is good because even in my kindergarten classroom, right, when I need them to calm, I put on classical music, whatever it is, and that's just all through my classroom. So I can see that as they're getting older with that independent learning, but they're allowed to have headphones that are wired. Is what we're proposing. And then, let's see, I think that's all I had. The one thing that was impressive to me is there was 2,100 students that took that survey. And when you read through the comments, a lot of them took it very seriously, which was really nice to hear about our students.
Can I ask, first one, going back real fast, what grade levels are we talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to start with that and I forgot.
I know it. That's why I asked.
We only surveyed 5th grade through 12th grade.
Okay. On this, I just wondered how that stacked up as they got
Yeah,
older.
and then when we looked at it, we did divvy it up between 5th and 6th, and then 7th through 12th. Yeah.
Thank you.
Spent a lot of time, if you can tell, on this committee, and a lot of great discussion came out of this, especially the wearable technology and different things. Has done a really nice job of being
Here, hold on. Here.
I'm just going to take the mic with me. Of being extremely thorough. I'm not used to sitting over here anymore, but we had a lot of purposeful conversation of making sure every voice was represented in this. We do want to thank everyone who did it and our committee. I mean, we had good conversations, both as parents of adolescents. I learned more about these amazing ladies and gentlemen and their children, but also as educators and hearing from our students and what are those concerns. All right, here's the drum roll. Here's our recommendations. Yes.
Levis, just quickly, can you go back one slide? Yes. The bottom bullet point there where the majority of the students feel that outside school hours is okay, that pretty much coincides with what the staff feels also.
That was, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's
Made
great.
us the recommendations as we looked at the policy for changes. It all aligned very nicely.
Yeah, that's impressive.
All right.
throw it all up there if you would like. We heard loud and clear that across the board, we would like to look at having a universal cell phone policy that prevents the use of that cell phone during classes, the hallways, and restrooms, with the exception being made that it is a reality that some students need their cell phone on them with a medical device. My son is one of those people. And sometimes there's specific situations that would require prior permission, given that situation. Allowing students to keep their devices on them, but remaining out of sight, out of use during the class time. So we don't see it, it's put away. You can have it on you, it's not disrupting what's happening in the classroom.
Is that powered down?
Yes, off and away. Off and away. Mhm.
That was the number one piece that the parents asked for, is that their children have it on them in the event of an emergency. That was the number one comment we heard time and time again. So we're allowing them to keep it on them, but off and out of sight.
But off being, if you think powered down, but off being on silent, is that what you're saying? Because, if it's off, how does the...
Here's the other thing too. I know Mr. Kopis keeps mentioning that we want to help the teachers out because they're obviously going to be the ones immediately dealing with these issues. We don't want to police, like, we see the outline of a phone in their pocket, like, go put it in a box or go put it in a locker or something like that. We don't want our teachers to have that battle. If they keep it away and they're not on it, actively using it, we're not going to fight that fight.
And I think when we're talking about an emergency, they mean like an emergency at school where the kid would have to get a hold of the parent because there is something, lockdown or whatever. Not an emergency at home, because if there's an emergency at home, they can still call the front office.
Right, okay. Now, I'm clear on that, because thank you for clarifying.
The main message with this is going to be enforcement, and communication and consistency is going to be key. It's going to take, the first person who interacts with that student when they walk in the door, if they see it, remember, off and away, because we want to make sure we capture it then, not at fifth period when, it's like, well, this has gone on all day. So it's going to take a village of both teachers and administrators and school staff to work together to communicate and enforce this with the students. Training our staff on those expectations and the students to know what the expectations are. We can't hold them to that expectation if we haven't explicitly talked to them and communicated that with our students. Providing tiered consequences for violation in alignment with our code of conduct, and then providing that annual notice to parents and students on those technology expectations through final forms, handbooks, Class Dojo, Friday Connections, as well as reassurance of ways to reach their children during the school day. They can always call the front office if there's an emergency that they need to speak with their child, and just reassuring the parents of that. And then again, providing those resources, as we mentioned earlier, various members that educating the parents on some of the impacts that we're seeing with our students and cell phones and the cell phone epidemic, and just equipping them with the knowledge and resources to be able to support their child at home. So our suggested new policy, I'm just to sum it up with a couple simple statements is K-12 cell phones are prohibited in the classroom hallways or restrooms. We should not see them. Students may use personal technology before and after school for an academic specific purpose, on the bus and during extracurricular activities. An example of a specific academic purpose in band, a lot of the music teachers have their students tune their instruments with a tuner app on their phone. That's a specific academic purpose. But outside of those examples, off and away across the board.
Great. Input, having all of that, the members of the team and all that. One question, what about teachers? And so I'm a firm believer in leading by example. Will the teachers try and follow that policy as well?
We talked a lot about that, and our teachers do sometimes use their phone for that educational purpose, just speaking from an elementary lens.
Right.
You know, we're walking to specials, or we're walking to lunch, and maybe we're doing a restroom break, and we're looking for students showing their roar at Linden.
Okay.
Teachers might be giving dojo points with that app. But again, having that education mindset, we're using it with this during the workday with the students for an educational purpose.
Okay, thank
Or
you.
even another thing, like I have to use mine sometimes to communicate with another teacher about a student that's having an issue, and so we text for that reason.
Well, and you all are adults. You should know how to.
And I'm sure this was discussed as well, but if a teacher's on a planning bell in their classroom and there aren't students there, I don't see a problem with the use of it in that room.
One of our committee members was,
I'm going to keep this out.
One of our committee members was Mr. Marjoram. I'm going to bring my own mic next time. I'll write that down. But I asked Mr. Marjoram to come because if you remember, he came to Garfield last year, was his first year, and he saw cell phones were really impeding on the learning at Garfield. And so he put some practices in place, and I think it's important for you as a board to understand the implementation of this will be bumpy at times. It's a change for some of our students. We're going to get some pushback at first. However, I will tell you, I think the metrics that he's going to share with you, it was a slam dunk to our committee to go this direction after we already felt that way with the survey results. So,
Mr. Marjoram.
I'll keep this out just in case. We kind of want to put our money where our mouth is because the only thing we don't really mention in that policy is what happens when the policy's broken. So we put that into practice. We actually, so if you want to post that first one there, this is what we kind of implemented at Garfield. So our rule is cell phone out of sight in all areas in the building. And if that is violated, a parent picks the cell phone up. We call the parent has to pick it up from school. So we implemented that at the start of fourth quarter last school year. So it was partway through the school year. And to give you an idea of how that went right away, the first day we implemented that, I called 19 parents to pick up cell phones. So I was like, man, I might have messed up here because 19 parents had to come get the phones. To date, and it's 22 now because I had to take one today. They messed up my numbers. But to date, the first semester, we have taken 22 phones. So in one day last year when I first implemented this, it was 19 in one day. And now you can see we've gone through a whole semester of school and we've only taken 22 phones. Kids have responded to this. Those 8th graders that are now there that experienced this fourth quarter last year know they don't want to get their phone taken away and mommy and daddy having to pick it up. And then the kids that are now 7th graders don't know any different. If you come to our school, and I invite you to do that, if you come to our school and you watch in the hallway even when they're transitioning classes, they won't be walking down the hallway like this anymore because that was a problem. It was especially bad in those transition times. The teachers were doing a pretty good job of managing it in the classrooms, but those transition times when they walk to and from class, you wouldn't believe what they can do in 3 minutes on their phone. The reason we implemented this is because we found out through many investigations in the first part of the year that many of our serious physical incidents that occurred at the school, not only were they started on technology during school hours on those phones, there was people posting stuff about them after they happened on technology. We were having to suspend kids when those incidents occurred because they had their phone out recording it. That has reduced tremendously. So if you want to show this, last school year, we had 699 incidents in the first semester of interference disruption in the classroom. This school year, first semester, same amount of time, we've had 240 incidents of interference or disruption in our classroom. I attribute that to the lack of cell phones causing more interference or disruption. Not putting my own personal opinions into this, but I'm a firm believer that these do more bad than good. One of the nights I left the committee, ironically, I teach a Miami class of juniors studying to be teachers, and they're 20, 21 years old, so they've grew up in a society where they've had these things their whole life. So I took back some of our survey data and showed them some of the survey data and asked them if any of it surprised them, including the students, over 50% of the students saying that they shouldn't have them at school. And we made a list, and what we found out is if you make a list of dangers of these things in school and pros, actual benefits, I don't care what group of people you're talking to, whether it's the parents, the staff, or the students, no one can give more positives than negatives about these things being in our classrooms. And I think that's important for us to note. And that's why I talked about it with those college students too. And some of them were self-aware enough to even admit, we know they're bad for us and they do more harm than good. We're just addicted to them. And I think we're all guilty of that as adults too, but.
Well,
Josh,
go ahead.
two things real fast. Number one, I applaud you for taking that on, taking on that that policy and enforcing it in your school. I would assume, as an administrator, knowing that it is a district policy, puts more teeth into that, gives you a lot more backing on what happens. So I applaud you to do that. The second thing I was going to ask, and this is, I guess, to Andrea, Mrs. Blevins, excuse me, Your Majesty, is have we seen this policy adopted at other school districts of similar size and characteristics, and how has that worked out for them? What can you tell us about that?
So I did some informal research of calling all of the local school districts around. Every school district in Butler County has a policy that limits the use of cell phones. There are some that still allow some teacher discretion here and there, but the majority of them, over 75% of the school districts in Butler County, limit the use of cell phones in the same vein that we are.
To this degree?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Because we are going to get pushback.
Oh, 100.
And speaking of teeth, I forgot to mention this. I know one of the concerns about the parents having to pick up the phones if we took them from the students. I know a concern I heard was that parents were going to be upset by that. Our survey results showed that our parents supported that, and actually every parent I've had to contact about this has been very supportive of that policy. They've actually said themselves, like, oh, you can keep it as long as you want, which I'm not going to. But they're pretty supportive of that policy. If their kid has that out and their kid knows they're not supposed to, the parents have been supportive of that.
Okay, thank you.
And I think for us, that's why we put back up the plan. You can kind of see, I want to thank this committee and all the members who aren't here tonight. We really try to be very thoughtful of this, of understanding the biggest component of this is communication, is working with our families, our students, and our staff to understand this. We do want to allow the autonomy for our buildings to figure out what that communication plan looks like and that system. For instance, in an elementary school, taking the phone, that might be a better piece. There were some buildings that expressed concerns with actually confiscating the phone themselves versus, different tiered consequences. That's why our committee made the recommendation to tie the consequences to our code of conduct. We already have a code of conduct that allows for warnings, allows for different consequences. But I am a firm believer, and someone said this before, that when you set the expectation high, kids will rise it. They will rise. And, I know that there will be some pushback with this, but I do want to reiterate at the beginning, almost all of our buildings already are putting this practice into place. And so this is just a matter of bringing us all in alignment, bringing the community on board, educating our families. That was a big push of our committee. This just can't be a no, right? You can't have it here. We also have to help families understand the consequences of cell phones because they're only with us for 8 hours a day. There's still a lot of things that happen outside of that day. And so that's really, when we come to January, I will bring that draft of the committee. We went line by line, and we have a red line master that has new language as well as crossed out from the old that I'd like to bring for a first read to the board at our second January meeting. And then from there, we can have discussion. But we just thank you for allowing our committee to do this work and have a voice in helping to define what this looks like moving forward.
Well, and to you, Mrs. Blevins, and your committee, thank you. I mean, that was a huge undertaking, and I think you've done a phenomenal job. And actually, you know, numbers don't lie when you look at what Josh, the turnaround that you see. And just on a side note, I can remember, this dates me a little bit, when I was finishing up my capstone course at Miami, when the information superhighway was first discussed. And I can remember coming home from that, and I said to my husband, this is going to be bad. And I think I'm right. I mean, there's good things about it, but it needs to be used properly.
And that's our goal as educators, is to help our kids navigate this new world. We've done that. You know, another topic is AI that we're discussing, right? We don't want families nor kids nor adults to be afraid of it, but we do have to teach kids what those boundaries are, how to use things, where does it work? And this is a nationwide, you know, I know that Governor DeWine is signing this in Ohio, but, you know, on all the educational newsletters that I follow, this is a nationwide conversation. I would argue worldwide, but I do believe in our nation this is a timely conversation. So thank you.
Mrs. Blevins' committee, I think that's tremendous work. I think one of the things that needs to be considered with all of this too is that if we have consistent policy, regardless of kids moving from building to building, if the policy is generally consistent, it isn't going to be a surprise. And I'll use our freshman building as example. Every year, the entire student body is new. So whatever expectation is set from the year prior to the next year, it's a new student population. In 7th and 8th grade, the student population turns over 100% in 24 months. You know, and if we're consistent at those grade levels, and then the high school is also consistent with enforcing those policies, when those kids come in there, it really shouldn't be much different. And I think that level of consistency is helpful as you look at this holistically. So I know this looks like a large undertaking, and maybe I'm a little naive, but I think it might go a little better than maybe we anticipate because of some of those components.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for letting us present.
Thank you so much. Great job. Look forward to seeing the final first reading.
Mrs. Baker? Mr. Davidson? Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
We'll move to executive session.